We'll give this a minute to get up and running. I'm not running it, it's running through my son's channel, which, so what I've got to do is watch the comments on my phone. So let me get that up. Catman, how you doing? James B, yes, I'm live. Live, yeah. Hey, Jay Vincent, Luck Foyers Institute, how you doing? Silver Surfer. Guys, I'm doing good. Hello from Dallas. Man, is Dallas getting hit with all the rain we're getting hit with down here? Len Lee, how you doing? Brian King. Hey Brian, I've been watching those little news clip things you've been putting together. Those are awesome. Hey, if y'all don't see, haven't seen Brian King's latest stuff, be sure and get over there and get a look at it. I'm going to turn that off right now so that I can tell you about the talking heads. So I've been watching all the hoopla from people talking about how police need to, we need more accountability with police and they shouldn't be investigating themselves. Basically, everything that every activist, accountability activist, has been saying for the last 10 years, they're now talking about it. And who are the people that are talking about it? Well, the people that are talking about it aren't the union guys. The union guys are, all they want to talk about is how they're doing it right all the time. Yeah, you got your 1% that are bad. Let me tell you guys, it is far worse than 1%. When I can sit here and tell you that entire police departments are bad, it is far worse than just 1%. Don't believe it. When you hear them say that stuff, don't believe it. People that are actually out here in the field dealing with these bad cops and the good cops will tell you the numbers are much, much higher. Now you're going to say, well, what do you think the numbers are? I'm going to say somewhere around 80%. And this is for all of the United States, not just my area, because my area, the numbers are significantly different. But as a whole, my observation through the entire United States is that about 80% of law enforcement is corrupted in some form or fashion. 80%. And before the bunch of you that are in here that are going to start screaming, oh, no, what about the good cops? If you're a good cop and you stand by or you turn your back on bad cops doing evil deeds, you are not a good cop. If I go rob a bank and I take somebody along with me and they're just riding in the car, they don't even participate, they are still going to get charged as an accessory. And good cops that stand by while bad cops do bad things should be charged as accessories as well. Because until that starts happening and the good cops start stepping up or saying, I don't want any part of this, and leaving, they aren't good cops. So nationwide, I am putting the number somewhere around 80%. Now, that's a big pill to swallow, but it is what it is. When corporations, and a lot of you that you know what's going on in my personal life, when corporations can use police departments as mercenaries to attack people because they don't like people revealing how inept they are or how they infringe on people's rights or make false arrests or use police officers to do evil deeds for them. When a private corporation can use a department like that, that entire department from top to bottom, because it's not the guys on the bottom that are doing it, it's management, it's the chief of police, the assistant chief of police, and in my case it runs from supervisory level all the way through the chief of police. That entire department should be dissolved and done away with, and we may get to that point in the very near future, but I digress. I can point to so many departments that that are corrupt on such a level that they really just need to be disbanded, because there's no saving them. Chicago PD, New York City PD. I mean, these departments are just overrun with corruption. There's no cleaning that up. And when you see, they talk about how these officers are doing it right, but look at the protests. Look at these protests that have been happening. And what do we see? We see people having deadly force used against them. CCW out in California got it on video. A sheriff's deputy shot a woman in the head with a beanbag round. Now, beanbag rounds are supposed to be fired low at the ground. They really like for you to kind of ricochet them off the ground, and hit the lower legs and the thighs, things like that. Okay, this woman was so far away, it had to be an aimed shot. So, do you think there's any accountability for that? The deputy that fired that shot would face any kind of consequences? Nope. Sheriff out there doesn't care. You saw video of police driving by crowds and just randomly spraying pepper spray at them. Do you think those officers will face consequences or be charged? Nope. Not going to happen. And so long as that situation exists, we're going to have problems in this country with law enforcement. We've recently obtained a bunch of documents from the Fusion Center. Fusion centers were established to track and share information on organized crime, on terrorist activities and terrorists. Specifically, if you Google it, you can find their operating instructions. The word eludes me, but basically what they're supposed to be doing, who they're supposed to be tracking. Political activists are specifically exempted. Media is specifically exempted. And yet, with all this documentation that we've gotten, you see that anybody who believes in police accountability and speaks out about police accountability is being targeted and monitored. So if you're a police accountability activist, you can believe the Fusion Center is looking at you and watching you and monitoring you. And that is the epitome of the police state. Now, Justin Pulliam is putting together a video, and he'll have it up here pretty soon. Another channel, if you're not subscribed to Justin Pulliam, would somebody in the chat, which I can't see right now, I'll go look at the chat in a second. But Justin Pulliam's channel, if y'all would post a link to Justin Pulliam's channel, please. He's putting together a video on these documents. There are over 1,000 pages of Fusion Center documents that Anonymous hacked and got, and Justin is putting together a video showing you guys how they are targeting First Amendment advocates, police accountability advocates, and that sort of thing. Okay? The exact people that aren't supposed to be being watched. However, remember, the Fusion Centers are run by union members, police union members, and they see anybody that doesn't just stand up and lick their boots or fall down and lick their boots as being a threat to them. So they are terrorized by the prospect of what is happening. The very prospect that their power may be pulled back, reined in, and that their feet might be held to the fire, and they might be made to answer for their misdeeds. That is terrorism to the police unions. To us, it's just common sense, right? Let me show you a couple things here real quick. Hold on. Again, my son's running this through his channel, and so everything is backwards on my screens and stuff, so give me a second, just kind of bear with me here. But let's go over here first. Out in Atlanta, where they arrested a police officer that was involved in a shooting out there. This guy here is a politician, and he belongs to the Citizens Police Academy, and but this is important. So This is a pro-police rally that was held. Let me just give you snippets of this.
And rest assured, there are elected officials in this state that appreciate what you do.
That's Representative Micah Grabley. He's a Republican out of Douglasville, Georgia.
The police union saying at a rally on Sunday, morale is at an all-time low. Feelings of frustration and fear fueled by attacks from protesters and by their own city leaders.
We do the job to protect.
This guy is the Atlanta Police Union lawyer. Now, I can tell you, Atlanta PD is another one of those PDs that is pretty bad. If you have kept track of what goes wrong and where, you'll know what I mean. But so this is Jason Segura he is the leader of the Atlanta Police Union.
We expect to be protected by our leaders, and they've all failed us. All of them.
8.
Our leaders failed us. Well, now wait a minute. Seems to me that our leaders failed us, the citizens. Okay? You guys don't have rights. You have authority. You are employed by us for a reason, to protect and serve us, not yourselves, not private corporations. You don't get to abuse your authority that we grant to you to mistreat us. And there's part of the problem, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. I also want you to hear, this is the head guy for the Police Officers Benevolence Association, the union in New York City. Now, this is astounding to me, and I'll explain in a minute.
I am not Derek Chauvin. They are not him. He killed someone. We didn't.
NYPD. He didn't kill anybody. NYPD, thanks to stop and frisk, which they finally got rid of. How many of you remember 41 shots? Anybody remember that? The man reaching for his wallet when the police told him to stop. How many, there's so many examples of things gone wrong with law enforcement in New York City that, I could sit here all day long and go over it. And yet this guy is, get ready for this. Get ready for this.
We are restrained.
They're restrained.
And you know what? I'm saying this to all the cops here. Because you know what? Everybody's trying to shame us. The legislators, the press, everybody's trying to shame us.
Everybody's trying to shame them. Well, I would put forth that you shamed yourselves. You shamed yourselves. You don't need any help. All that we're doing is talking about it. Finally, we didn't shame you. You shamed yourselves. We're just pointing out what you have done.
It's being embarrassed about our profession. Well, you know what? This isn't stained by someone in Minneapolis. It's still got a shine on it. And so do theirs. So do theirs. Stop treating us like animals and bugs. And start treating us with some respect.
Respect is earned, not given. And the lack of respect towards law enforcement right now was earned. This has been coming for years and years and years because of the misdeeds and the lack of action on those misdeeds of law enforcement. We didn't do this. I didn't create this situation. The police did. More specifically, the police unions did by protecting people who should have been held accountable, and by putting people into the district attorney's office and the legislatures that protected bad cops. You created the situation, and now it hasn't even come to full fruition yet. This is just the start. This is the spark. The fire hasn't even begun yet. And you're crying, it's not time to cry yet. How many times did you stand and watch people mistreated that were crying for help? How many times have you stood by and protected a cop that did bad things while his victim cried for help? People are tired of having their foot, the foot of the government via the police, on their neck. Do y'all know where the police came from? Policing in the South comes from slave runners. What the slave runners would do is they hired people, and they called them police, to track down runaway slaves. That's what they were. They're basically bounty hunters. But and that's why, I always laugh. People always ask me, man, why do the police want ID so bad? Why do police want ID so bad? This goes all the way back to the days when they were chasing down runaways. They needed ID so they could see, is this one of my runaways or not? That's where it comes from. Most of the laws that you find, Louisiana is a good example. You see how the law there very easily requires people to ID. These go back to the slave days. And Louisiana is still living in those times. And it's unfortunate, but the laws need to change. And until you can get past the police unions, which own Louisiana and Arkansas and more states than I can count, until you can get past them, because if you want to hold an elected position in Louisiana, you basically need the backing and endorsement of the Fraternal Order of Police. So they're not putting people in office over there that are going to hold them accountable when they do wrong and prosecute bad cops. No, they're putting people in power that will protect them. Do you guys know that the police have their own Bill of Rights? Let's pull that up. Hold on just a second. So I'm betting a lot of you don't even know this. Hold on. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Come back here. All right, wait a minute here. I screwed up. Try that again. Here we go. There. I think that's showing. Okay, here we go. Police Bill of Rights. Oh, look. Law enforcement officers Bill of Rights. Let's use Wikipedia here. The Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights, LEO BOR, or BR, whatever, I don't know, it's an abbreviation there, is intended to protect American law enforcement personnel from investigation and prosecution arising from conduct and performance of their official duties, and provides them with privileges based on due process additional to those normally provided to other citizens. It was first set forth in 1974 following the Supreme Court rulings in the case Garrity versus New Jersey, 1967, Gardner versus Broderick, 1968. It doesn't prohibit police departments from subjecting officers to drug tests. 16 states have their own version of this, but and Texas is one of them, because the police union owns our legislature here. But here are just now this is detailed by the Grand Lodge of the Fraternal Order of Police. Hold on just one quick second. Okay, so Grand Lodge of the Fraternal Order of Police. And here's what it says. Law enforcement officers, except when on duty or acting in an official capacity, have the right to engage in political activity or run for an elective office. Okay. Law enforcement officers shall, if disciplinary action is expected, be notified of the investigation, nature of the allegations, and notify the outcome of the investigation. Hold on a second, move that. Recommendations made by supervisors and by investigators. Questioning of law enforcement officers should be conducted for a reasonable length of time, preferably while the officer is on duty unless exigent circumstances apply. Now, when police bring you in to question you, they will bring you into an interview room, and they will hold you in that interview room for 24 hours, 30 hours, whatever they need to do to get the information out of you they want. They're not going to give you food. They're not going to give you. You might get drink if you're lucky. You know, we've seen how these interrogations go, and yet they made sure to put it in the Policeman's Bill of Rights that they don't get treated that way. Questioning of law enforcement officers should take place at the offices of those conducting the investigation or a place where the officer reports to work. They don't want to have their police officers getting questioned at home, you know, like they do you, how they come and embarrass you in front of your neighbors and embarrass you and humiliate you in front of your family by questioning you about crimes that you probably aren't even involved in. You know, yeah, but they will make sure that they're not done that way, because heaven forbid somebody's wife hears what's going on and then she decides to give evidence. Law enforcement officers will be questioned by a single investigator, and he or she shall be informed of the name, rank, and command of the officer conducting the investigation. That's not how they do us. Why are they doing police officers any different? Why are police officers treated differently than you or I? If they commit a crime or they're suspected of a crime, the treatment they receive should be equal to and no less than the same thing you and I get. They're entitled to have attorneys present. They can't be threatened, harassed, or promised rewards. They're entitled to hearings, and yada, 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 yada. It's all the same BS there. So, there's been a lot of talk lately coming out of the police about how they need to clean this up and clean that up. Art Acevedo testified before the Senate on it. The problem is, this is more of the same thing we've been having all along. It's the police investigating the police. And that's part of the problem. We need to get people like, they need input from people like me. People that are out in the field dealing with this and seeing what's what. And we are the people they need to be hearing from, but they don't want to listen to us. They don't want to talk to us. Do you know why? Because if they do, then they have no plausible deniability. Oh, we had no idea corruption ran so deep. They don't want to really hear what's happening. They don't want to really change anything. They just want to make everybody think they're doing something, because it's an election year. So it's all smoke and mirrors. We've got this going over here so that you're not looking over here. Smoke and mirrors. That's what you're getting out of Washington, D.C. That's what you're getting from your city leaders. That's what you're getting from your county leaders right now. It's all just politics. And that's unfortunate, because right now, we could bring this whole fiasco to a screeching halt. We could do it right now. If somebody just genuinely wanted to make a change. If somebody had the courage to stand up to the police unions and say, you guys have got to stop what you're doing. You've got to stop protecting the bad guys. And there's more. But my point is, they're going to force the issue because they're not going to do anything. And by the time they're ready to do something, it's going to be too late. Because people are at a boiling point, and you can only bring a pot to boil so many times before it boils over. that's where we're at. And they don't genuinely want to fix or change anything, because the police unions have lots and lots of money and lots of influence. And if you want to get reelected, and you want to pander to that influence and that money. And again, we run into one of the bigger issues. The politicians are bought and paid for. They're owned. So what do? One thing we start with are term limits. Term limits for politicians prevents them from being in a place where they can influence and control policy for an extended period of time. So the opportunity for change comes about when somebody that we want to put in office has a chance at getting into office. And they don't have a chance of getting in office if you've got somebody that's been sitting there 20 years, getting his money and kickbacks from, the law enforcement community and the big corporations and all of that. There's not going to be any change. He is bought and paid for and doing their bidding. So you want to change law enforcement, you got to change the politicians first. Never vote for a judge or prosecutor that has the backing of a police union. Any other politician that has the backing of a police union, never ever vote for them. I don't care what party they're from. It doesn't matter. They are bought and paid for. So we change the politicians. Then we start to change the police by legislating new laws. We take away the protections they have that are built into the law that the police unions have worked since the early 80s, mid 80s to get into place. Once you get that changed, the rest of it, it'll all start to fall into place. You get the mayors and the city councils on board, and then you fight the unions. When their contracts come up for renewal a couple of years ago, the city of Austin refused to renew the contract for their police department. That's how you're going to create change. You're going to force the unions to do the right thing, or we don't sign a contract. Well, then they'll go on strike. Go on strike. Go on strike. That's what you want to do. Do it. But here in Texas, at least, we are capable of protecting ourselves. When you need the police, when you've got somebody breaking into your house, that is a situation that will be resolved in seconds. Seconds count. 5 seconds, 6 seconds. And the police are 10 minutes away. Be able to protect yourself, protect your home, protect your family. First and foremost, don't count on anybody to do it, least of all the government. Let me go see. All right, so, and I'm not watching the chat. I have to go to my cell phone to look at the chat. So let's see what some of you guys are saying. Hey, Selena. Too much education for a Saturday. Sorry, guys. Yeah, they don't like the Constitution because it ties their hands in a lot of things, in a lot of instances. So it's meant to be that way, okay? The founding fathers created the Constitution not to give us rights, because we already had the rights. They're God-given rights. They created the Constitution to tie the hands of government, to prevent the government from becoming exactly what it is today, a police state. And more they are eroding the Constitution and pushing it aside, and it's, in many cases, just ignoring it. And, oh, well, take it to the Supreme Court and win. First off, Supreme Court doesn't hear all the cases. They hear what they want to hear. And if they don't want to hear it, you get no case law on it, you're screwed. So you can't go to the Supreme Court with it. You mean you can try, but it's unlikely you'll get there. Okay? They refused to hear this qualified immunity case recently. Everybody thought, oh, this is great. The Supreme Court's going to re-examine qualified immunity. And then they said, no, we're not going to do it. Why? All of these Supreme Court justices are all ex-federal prosecutors. They're all ex-federal judges. Many of them, or some of them, are ex-federal law enforcement or state law enforcement, okay? Their loyalties do not lie with your rights. Their loyalties lie with the government. Do you send a check to the Supreme Court justices? No, they get their money from the government. So you cannot rely on the Supreme Court. You cannot rely on them to be unbiased and to stick with the law. They're the ones that created qualified immunity out of thin air. D.B. McCree sent me a book, and I will be looking at showing you that book. He did a book about civil rights and auditors and some other stuff, and I hear it's very interesting. Okay, I got that, James B. Governments force masks on everybody. Guys, okay. We're having a big upsurge in these corona cases here in Harris County, allegedly. And so they're mandating everybody wears a mask. Mask is only good if somebody is up in your face. Okay? Other than that, it doesn't really do any good. If you're worried about getting corona, distance is your friend. Stay away from people. Distance is your friend. And wash your hands. It's touching your face after you touch some hard surface is the #1 spread of the germ. Germs. Wash your hands. Distance yourself from people. If wearing a mask makes you feel better, hey, have at it. I don't generally wear one. I just stay away from people. So there's my take on that. Amy, hold on, I missed what you said there. Yes, their attitudes need to be restrained. You know, if there are no consequences for your actions when you do wrong, what incentive do you have to do right? Do you see? This is how it works with law enforcement. There's no incentive to do the right thing, because if you do the wrong thing, there will be no consequences. Until they face consequences for their actions, till they face having to answer for their misdeeds, they will continue to do what they do. How many times have you guys seen me out in the field dealing with a cop that just won't ID? Show of hands. Let's see how many of you out there. Yeah, it's a bunch of you out there. I see you. Okay, so if they refuse to give their names and badge numbers, something that basic, something that is established in a Supreme Court ruling. I don't recall the ruling. I'll have to go back and find it and maybe post it for you here. But basically, the Supreme Court said a police officer must identify himself by name and employment number or badge number. And if he doesn't, then he's not acting in his official capacity. He's not a police officer. He's maybe impersonating an officer. I don't know. And I'm not quoting, I'm paraphrasing. Policy. I do not know a single agency that does not require a police officer to identify himself on request by name and badge number. And yet, how many times and how many videos through how many auditors and civil rights activists have you seen police officers, when asked for a name and badge number, just refuse to give it? Do you know why? Because there will be no consequences. The union will protect them. The chief doesn't care. You know, there will be no consequences. If something that basic and simple can't be enforced, what else are they ignoring? What other misdeeds by an officer are they ignoring and overlooking and allowing? Okay? Because if they're not doing anything about it, it's by de facto, they're giving consent for it. You know, we have this thing with the Tuttle shooting here. Gerald Goins and I forget the other guy's name, Bryant, falsifying documents. And Art Acevedo recently bragged to me about how he got them charged for what they did. And I laughed. I laughed because the only reason that whole situation from the very beginning, the first time I looked at that house, and that's all I had to do. I looked at that street and I looked at that house and I knew everything that the police were saying were lies. So you cannot tell me that every officer that was on that scene at any given point, including Art Acevedo, didn't know that whole thing was lies. Started using another word. Okay? Just looking at the street and looking at the police report, it was obvious that there were discrepancies and there was lies. And then when I found out that the lead investigator in that case was Goins, I have known about Goins for 5 or 6 years. The district attorney has known about Goins for at least 10 years. And they're still taking charges from him. They're still letting him do what he does. And he's not the only one. They're sitting back telling us, oh, we reviewed and we investigated the narcotics division and they're good, they're solid, it was just one bad cop. No, it's not. It's not. There's a bunch of them over there doing it. And now the district attorney is patting herself on the back because she's reviewing some old cases and kicking them. Why did she take the cases to start with when you already knew he was bad? He was dirty. Why are you taking the cases to start with? Kim Hawk's got to go. She got to go. And all this stuff of patting herself on the back because she's kicking old cases now, that doesn't get these people back the time they've spent in prison or the money they spent on lawyers and the things they've lost, the lifetime that they've lost. That doesn't get them back. It's good that you're letting them go now, but they've already done their time. Most of them have already done their time. Most of them have already faced punishment for crimes they did not commit that you took charges on. It's not the cops at the bottom. The cops at the bottom will only do what the cops at the top and the district attorneys allow them to do and get away with. Because if they know that there's going to be consequences, then they're going to do one of two things. One, they're not going to commit the crime, or two, they're going to commit the crime and then get prosecuted. You've got to get a district attorney in office that will prosecute bad cops, and you've got to get leadership in the department that does the right thing. And the right thing is not protecting bad cops. The right thing is not being afraid to stand up to the police union. So, all right, guys, that's my soapbox. Let me look over here at comments. Wait a second. Let me see. I only talk. Okay. Glad you think so. I can't get these to scroll. See if that does it. Wait a minute, I know what to do. Here we go. There we go. I got him. All right, I'm up on the comments now. Yeah, Texas Rangers investigated Amber Geiger and said she was justified in shooting. Thank goodness it went to court, and you saw how that judge bent over backwards to Seattle Doug, they didn't make it illegal to film cops. In reaction to the aggressive cop watchers they have out there, they made it illegal to interfere with the cops or to get inside their perimeter. Okay? It was predictable. For some reason, my phone is not updating. So I've got to go to the chat over here. Hold on, guys. Bear with me. All right, let me see. Good cops quit, get fired, or become bad. Witnessing or having knowledge of bad cop behavior or doing nothing about it makes you a bad cop. That's right. Misty, thank you. I'm not worried about the haters. I've been dealing with haters for years. Let them hate. Yeah, King Point Poppin', that's an interesting thing. So Colorado just passed a law that requires, okay, that requires a police officer that sees another police officer doing wrong to intervene and report it. The problem with that is, you know, it looks good on paper, but in practice, it's not going to happen. One thing Joe Grimaldi said, y'all know Joe Grimaldi, you know, we got your number, we're going to hold you accountable. You remember Joe Grimaldi? Looks like Pee Wee Herman. He says that Houston police officers are reporting other police officers at a rate of 9-to-1 versus citizen complaints. 9 police complaints against other police officers versus every 1 citizen complaint. Now, he makes that sound like it's a good thing, and it probably is, but and keep in mind, Joe Grimaldi will not talk to me, and there's a reason he won't talk to me. My retort to that is, if you've got that many police officers reporting other police officers, the problem is 10 times worse than that, because we know that it is underreported. So there you have that. And this thing about Colorado is scaling back or whatever with their qualified immunity. I haven't had a chance to review all that yet. Hoping to get caught up this weekend. I've been pretty busy, but we'll see. All right, let me see. We got anything else? Oh, DOJ. Get off the DOJ. Excuse me. I had roast beef for lunch and gave me heartburn. Ugh. Here's the thing with the Department of Justice. Department of Justice, you have the Attorney General's office, okay, that's the federal prosecutors and all that. Then you have the investigative arm of the Department of Justice, which is the FBI, and you have basically the beat cops of the DOJ, which is the U.S. Marshal Service. My experience with the FBI is that, like other law enforcement agencies, they are run by the union, and when it comes to accountability, zero. There's no accountability. Maybe if another agent reports somebody, but the average citizen, they're not doing anything. I've made multiple complaints with the FBI about agents. You remember where Agent Keith Byers in El Paso grabbed me and tweaked my arm? I have muscle damage and nerve damage in this arm from that. The FBI agent that broke my camera in, I think it was Harlingen. Remember the Asian guy? Yeah. I could go on. Every single complaint, I've never heard a word back, never heard a peep. No action was ever taken. And if I make a complaint with the FBI about some crooked cop or whatever, straight in the garbage can. The FBI has no interest in investigating wrongdoing of police officers unless it suits their purpose somehow. Unless they get to wear a suit and go on TV and be whatever they be. You know, they are not interested in conducting investigations into wrongdoing, criminal acts, and I've reported a lot of things to the FBI. Other criminal acts, they're not interested in it. Because I dare to criticize them as an agency as a whole. I dare to criticize law enforcement. So they figure I'm not entitled to police services or police protection or whatever. And that's how they feel about it. You're either a bootlicker and we'll do everything we can to help you, or you're against us and we're not going to lift a finger for you. How many of you remember that Joe Grimaldi? Hold on. I just happen to have old Mr. Joe. I'm going to play this for you guys. Here it is. Let me see. Here's Joe Grimaldi.
But now I want to speak on behalf of the 5,200 brave men and women of the Houston Police Department and the other 800,000 police officers that are working these streets every single day, putting their lives on the line. We are sick and tired of having targets on our back. We are sick and tired of having dirtbags trying to take our lives when all we're trying to do is protect this community and protect our families. Enough is enough. And if you're the ones that are out there spreading the rhetoric that police officers are the enemy, well, just know we've all got your number now. We're going to be keeping track of all of y'all, and we're going to make sure that we hold you accountable every time you stir the pot on our police officers. We've had enough, folks. We're out there doing our jobs every day, putting our lives on the line for our families.
Wait, what? Putting your lives on the line for your families? I thought you were putting your lives on the line for the community. I must have got that wrong. Oh, let's see this thing. How do I get this back? Oh, hold on. There. There's old Joe Grimaldi. And stirring the pot. If you're spreading the rhetoric, if you dare to speak up and say the police are bad, they're coming for you. And let me tell you guys, they mean it. I can personally attest to this fact. They mean it. Police unions are today's mafias, and they're protected by the government. They are organized criminal enterprises. I'm not anti-union. Unions were intended to get people safe working conditions and fair pay. I have no problem with that. But when unions become places where people sit and plan how they're going to target individuals, which is what is being done in these unions, fraternal order police, then they have become organized criminal enterprises. And they should be outlawed. They should be banned. You're in the military, you can't have a union to stand up for you. Why do we allow other public servants to do it? It should not be allowed. Should not. It's my opinion. Anyhow, guys, I got things to do. I just wanted to pop on here. That whole thing, this whole rhetoric with the chiefs of police and cops running around talking about accountability and what needs to be done just does not sit well with me. Because all that they are doing is fixing the system for themselves. That's what they're trying to do. They're not trying to fix what's wrong and what's broken and make it right. They're trying to get more influence and more power and more workarounds for themselves. Don't buy it. Don't allow it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You want to know what's wrong with policing? Come ask me. I can give you all kinds of direction on how to fix it. And starts with getting rid of broken windows policing. That is one of the worst things to ever come along in law enforcement. But that is it, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys popping in. It's Saturday evening, and I'm gonna go work on my boat. So y'all have a good evening, and I'll see you again soon. And see if my son. I don't see him here in the control room. So he's watching though, but you can go ahead and wrap this up, and I'll see you guys again soon. So you can end the stream, and he's going to mess with me now. He'll like make the stream go on instead of turning it off.